The type of expenses you can claim will be decided by the nature of your assignment, whether you're under supervision, direction or control, SDC, if your assignment is projected to be longer than 24 months, or what your place of work will allow to be reimbursed. To claim or check existing expenses, log into Solucio, then click Expenses. Click Expenses Submission, and any claims you have already made will display. You can view expenses claimed in more detail by clicking the magnifying glass here. If your expenses are at submitted status, you can also edit them. Click the magnifying glass, make the changes to the fields required, then click the Update button. To add a new claim from this screen, click the green plus button here. If you haven't made any claims, a green Add New Expense button will appear instead. A Submit Expense pop-up will appear. First drop-down menu will display your employer. If you have more than one, you can select by clicking on the arrow, then the employer of choice. Next is the assignment for which you're claiming. The assignment displayed here has the quite generic name of contractor. Again, you can use the drop-down to choose the assignment if you have more than one. Finally, this drop-down menu will let you pick the expense type. You can see there are only 2 allowable types of expense for this assignment. Making a claim is just a matter of filling out the necessary fields. We'll do a reimbursable claim for parking first, then a business expense of mileage. The first decision is whether multiple instances of the expense will be claimed in this submission. Single use means you incurred the expense once, whereas multiple use means you incurred the expense at least twice over the period you're claiming for. It defaults to single use. Just click the radio key next to multiple use if you need to change it. If you click multiple use, you'll also need to select the dates during which the expenses were incurred using the calendar here and here. Amount is the total amount incurred. If you spent £5 in parking fees each time, but you parked 3 times over a week, you would claim £15. VAT value will calculate automatically if the expense type is subject to VAT. Next is the receipt date. This should be the date on the receipt for the expenses you're claiming. If you have multiple receipts, you may wish to pick the first or last receipt and use the date on that. If proof of the expense is needed, you will need to click the Attach File button. Navigate to where you saved your receipts and double-click on the file. Finally, you need to add any notes in the Remarks field. Your agency may require a declaration, else if there is nothing else to add, perhaps NA could be used. Let's save this claim by clicking the green Save button here. We're taken back to the Expenses bank and can see our new claim here. Onto a mileage claim. We'll use the default employer and assignment, but we'll pick mileage from the expense name drop-down this time. Select whether you made the journey one way, or if it was a return trip using the radio keys here. The journey name is more of a reason for travel. Let's call it Work to Client 1. The HMRC requires a mileage log, so it's advisable to use postcode travelled to and from in the journey to and from fields. Mileage is claimable at different rates depending on the type of vehicle, so you'll need to select that from this drop-down. Next is total distance travelled in miles in this field. Mileage also requires you to state whether the journey was undertaken multiple times over the period claimed for, and again, multiple use requires you to select a to and from date from the calendar. Receipt date, attach file, and remarks all work the same as for reimbursable expenses, so all that's left to do is click Save. Back to the expense bank, and again we can see our new claim.